Good afternoon, sirs, ma'ams, ladies and gentlemen. Right, I have a really, really interesting topic. It is the medical attendant report, and it's an audit. What more could you ask for? Okay, so my objectives. Really, why did we introduce the medical attendant report in the UK? The aims of it, the results of the first audit that I did in 2011, changes that we had as a result of that, then the further audits and my conclusions. I don't actually have a question for all of you, but I do have a typo in the presentation if you can find it. Okay, right, well, we do have some ageing pilots, and unfortunately in 2009 there was a Grob Tutor accident with the Grob Tutor had a collision with a glider. Now, the pilot was an air experience flight pilot, so he was older, he'd retired from the Air Force, he was a reservist. And when the accident happened, unfortunately the AEF pilot was killed instantly, and the cadet was unable to get out of the aircraft, and they were both killed. The glider pilot survived. The pilot was known to suffer with ankylosing spondylitis, and this did cause us concerns around age and risk of incapacitation. We do know that with increasing age, there is an increasing risk of in-flight incapacitation. We also know that your sensory and intellectual functioning declines as you get older, but also when you've had a bit to drink as well. So there were aeromedical concerns. There was the risk of sudden incapacitation, obviously a decline in special senses. The executive, who are now taking responsibility for risk, became extremely concerned, and they wanted reassurance that we as medics could reduce the risk for them as low as reasonably possible. Okay, so AOC at the time of 22 Group directed that we would introduce the medical attendant report. This report was to be completed by all aircrew not registered with a service medical centre for their primary health care, who were flying military aircraft, and it was to be filled in by the patient's regular GP. The aim of it was to try and provide assurance that we knew what was going on with these people in the 12 months that we would, in between the 12 months, we would see them for their medicals. This is one of the sentences that's on the medical attendant report, which goes to the GP. And it's really just telling them why we would like them to fill this report in. We ask all sorts of questions, are you the GP's, are you the patient's regular GP? Do you hold their NHS records? Have you seen them in the last 15 months? Have you referred them to any specialists? All the normal questions. And then we also encourage them to think about any illnesses or conditions which might cause sudden incapacitation, problems with vision or speech, hearing, balance, anything that might affect them whilst they're flying. Prior to the introduction of the medical attendant report, all we asked the aircrew to do was sign a self-declaration saying that they had had no problems in the preceding 12 months. It was also decided, because we have quite a few pilots who have a JAR FCL 3 Class 1 medical from the CAA, that we would also ask them to complete a medical attendant report. This was introduced in April 2010, and we allowed a 2-month grace period so they could have their medical and then have 2 months to get the report from their GP. This is for all you pet owners out there. At the same time as we introduced the medical attendant report, the Aircrew Medical Standards Steering Group endorsed a policy to introduce enhanced cardiac screening for all aircrew from the age of 60 onwards. The intent, again, was to mitigate the increased cardiovascular risk that is inherent with increasing age. So in addition to all the normal routine assessments that we would do for cardiovascular risk factors, we asked them to undergo a 2-yearly exercise ECG, and if required or clinically indicated, they would have a myocardial perfusion scan. I then was requested to do an audit 1 year on to see how things had gone. And the information that I requested really was along the lines of the number of MARs completed, any discrepancies, and if there were any discrepancies, had this affected the military aviation medical examiner's decision on fitness to fly, number of stress ECGs, and again, how many were abnormal, and how many aircrew did we ground. So these are the results from, this was done from April 10 until April 11. We had 501 MARs. We had 35 discrepancies between what the pilot told us and what the GP had written. So this was quite concerning. 18 of those, what was written on the MAR by the GP caused us to change decision on fitness to fly. 14 of the cases were obviously referred for further investigation. We had 52 stress ECGs, 5 of which were abnormal, 5 required further investigation, and 2 individuals were temporarily grounded. There were several problems that we identified on the MAR which could have impacted on flight safety, most of which were due to medication. Some of the medications, as you can see, amitriptyline, methotrexate, pregabalin, which we learned yesterday was used for neuropathic pain and epilepsy, Malarone and Testigel. We also had pilots who had pilonidal sinus, inguinal hernia, uncontrolled hypertension and shoulder impingement. The pilots weren't keen on the MAR. Most viewed it with suspicion, not unsurprisingly, and a lot, or most of them, expressed their distaste with the whole procedure. Wing Commander Timperley, who was CA Med at the time, advised that some of the stress ECGs had led to the pilots being permanently grounded. He also advised that some of the aircrew who had their CAA licence had refused to undergo stress testing because they did not want to know whether they had an abnormal stress test or not, as this would affect their CAA licence. So as a result of the first audit, 2 changes were implemented. The statement of health that was signed by the aircrew, it was advised that this should be rewritten. And it was also mandated that the MAR, rather than being made available 2 months after the medical, should actually be made available at the time of the medical. And also, when rewriting the statement of health, we wanted to emphasise to the aircrew that they had a responsibility to alert their doctor on the station medical centre of any condition which might affect their fitness to fly. It was basically designed around the CAA self-certification form which they have, and it's quite comprehensive, and it goes through a sort of a tick list of have you had this, are you on any medication, have you been referred. So it was a much better form than the one we actually had. Assistant Chief of the Air Staff requested a further audit after 6 months. I just put this in because some of you might feel like this tomorrow morning. So this audit was only done over a period of 6 months. We had 319 medical attendant reports. The list of discrepancies had fallen. There were only 6 differences between what the GP had written and what the pilot had written. However, this did still affect 3 cases of fitness to fly. We still had quite a large number of cases that we referred for further investigation. Again, we had 3 abnormal stress ECGs out of a total of 33, and the number grounded was 4. These are temporary groundings, not permanent. The general consensus from the medical centre was that they felt that it had been extremely beneficial to have the MAR at the time of the medical, and they also felt that the enhanced statement of health had helped improve pilots' self-declaration. So this is the last one, the final audit. This was just completed, and went from February last year to February this year. 419 medical attendant reports, 4 cases of discrepancies, so much lower percentage again. 1 case did affect the decision on fitness to fly. 18 cases were referred for further treatment. We had quite a large lot of stress ECGs, 8 of which were abnormal. And we grounded 7 people. 1 was permanent and 6 were temporary. So, introduction of the MAR has helped highlight medical problems and a lack of communication between the aircrew, who only receive occupational medical care from us, i.e. not the ones that we don't see all the time. From the results, it's highly likely that both the Enhanced Statement of Health and the MAR will continue. There continues to be a number of cases that require further investigation. However, this has steadily decreased. Also, the discrepancy affecting the decision to fly has decreased from 3.59% to 0.24%. So that has helped improve flight safety. That's for me, just to remind me to shut up. Thank you very much.